Hi guys, give me a second. I gotta get into view. Hello everybody. Welcome to whatever this is. Welcome to live. Hope you're all having a great day. Today we are going to be talking about the Kirtland's Warbler, a species that for quite some time was endangered and possibly on the brink of extinction. But we won't get into that just yet. We're going to give it a minute or two to see if anybody comes in, and then we'll get started. So we'll just give it a minute or two, see if anybody comes in. Because I know sometimes things happen. This thing sometimes gets wonky. We're going to post also in my main channel that we're live. Hoping that maybe somebody will join us. You just never know with lives what's going to happen. Some days you get lots of people, other days you get nobody. Sorry if you're there and I don't see you. It's because I'm... Hi, Black. How are you? Good, good. Glad to hear it. I don't know. We're going to give it just a little bit longer. Hi, Linda. How is everybody tonight? I'm waiting on my moderator. I don't know if she'll be in or not. But tonight we're talking about the Kirtland's Warbler. I don't want to get too much into it because I'm waiting on somebody to come in. Hopefully she's in soon. But I love, a lot of times, I feel like I'm doing lives on an animal that is currently endangered. Oh, my hair. And I don't really get into... I'm talking to you as I wait for people to come in. We're talking about the Kirtland's Warbler today. This is a bird that lives in the United States. Hey, carry me through. Hi there. So we are going to get started. So this Kirtland's Warbler was almost to the brink of extinction. We saved it, luckily. and that's a good thing. This was a species that was one of the first birds to be put on the endangered species list here in the United States in 1967. It faced habitat loss in the form of deforestation, as well as parasitism by the brown-headed cowbird. If you subscribe to my other channel, you will know that that bird moved eastward as we took down forest and put in fields instead. And it has a tendency to lay their eggs in the nest of forest birds. So at the time that they were trying to decide what to do with this bird, its numbers had dropped significantly, and they had dropped down to only 167 pairs. Now I know what you're saying. 167 is a lot, or at least it sounds like a lot. But I want you to consider taking the citizenship of Chicago hold on. There are, right in 2023, there were at least 266 million people living in the city. So take that and reduce it down to just 167 couples. I'm not talking kids. I'm not talking homes. 167 couples. And that is how many of these birds were out there. You would be hard-pressed to recognize the city of Chicago with only 167 people living in it. Now, these birds nest in jack pine forest. Jack pines are a species of pine, and these birds live within the Great Lakes region. Now, they do migrate. So once they're done with breeding, they head out to the Bahamas to spend the winter. The latest information that I could find on this animal has them at 2,245 pairs in just a few years, in about 20-30 years. Now, we tend to think of fires as being bad. We tend to think of forest fires as being bad. And so we put them out. But fire, as a part of an ecosystem, is valuable. Because what it does is it opens up space. Some plants are biologically adapted to fire, meaning that they actually need fire to release their seeds. In this case, the warblers, well, we'll get to that in a bit, how fire and the warblers are connected. So what did we do? How did we sort of help the warbler? Right. But there's more to it than that also. What we did is we knew that cowbirds were brood parasites. What's a brood parasite, you might ask? Brood parasites are a bird that lays their eggs in the nest of other birds. The birds were delisted off the Endangered Species Act in 2019. But how do we go from point A to point B? One, when they were put on the endangered species list, there's money available to work towards their restoration. We got communities involved. We were able to protect the land that they lived on, and we worked on controlling a population of birds that weren't supposed to be there in the first place. Yes, brown-headed cowbirds are a native to the United States, but if you go back 2 centuries to like beginning of the 1800s, maybe beginning of sometime in the 1700s, cowbirds would not have been in this area. They were limited to just the Great Plains. That's no longer the case. And so we made a point to control those birds in this situation. Now, we're going to touch base on what Carry Me Through talked about how the fire cleanses the forest of dead plants. They also put down nutrients and material for these plants to perhaps feed on. Another thing it did is potentially eliminated trees that maybe weren't the right age anymore. So for these birds, they need trees that are between the ages of 4 years old to 15 years old. Any younger than that, and the birds won't nest in it. Any older than that, and the birds don't seem to nest in them. So now it became a question of, how do you control birds that live in these trees, live amongst these trees? You have to be able to then control these trees. How did we do it? We did it by logging. So when the trees reach a certain age, we get rid of them and we replant. Just because an animal is removed off the endangered species list doesn't mean that the fight is over. Sometimes you still have to provide support. This is a bird that didn't have huge numbers potentially to begin with. And so you have to provide backup. And so we're doing that by forest management, by still controlling the populations of cowbirds, high-planed goodman, and that amounts to a lot of really good working together through different organizations to get the bird back to where we want it to be. I did not. Was the Kirtland's Warbler captive bred? So I don't have evidence to suggest that this bird was ever captive bred. So this was not a situation like we saw with the condor, where the bird was captured and put into zoos. They really had to work with it. So these birds live originally in Michigan. And it was an extremely limited area in lower Michigan. They have now spread. They are no longer limited to just lower Michigan. They can now be found, I understand, in Toronto, in the Upper Peninsula, which is amazing. These birds may not always nest in the pines, though. Sometimes they will nest in bushes underneath the trees. They depend on those branches, those low-hanging branches on the pine trees, to actually hide their nest. Hey, Benjam. So what happens is these trees come up, and if you've ever been around a pine tree, you know that as the tree gets older, the lower branches have a habit of dying out. When that happens, the birds no longer feel safe, and so they won't nest under those trees. And so they will move on to another location. So what the fire does is potentially it gets rid of those older trees. Well, I'm glad to see you. That helps keep these birds from dying out. So, because they need to be able to hide, and these fires, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the cowbirds. So these birds, like I mentioned, lived out on the Great Plains for the longest time. They spread from the Great Plains into new areas, including lower Michigan. What that did is now these birds had access to new birds that they could lay their eggs in. New birds' nest, rather. So the warblers get tricked into laying their eggs in these other birds' nests. I'm doing great. The cowbirds lay their eggs in that nest, and the warblers are like, okay, we have a new egg. We'll raise it up. And so they do. But what happens is that cowbird will kick the chick, will kick the eggs out of the nest. And what happens to those eggs? Well, of course, they die. So the more cowbirds you have in an area creates problems for these birds. But fire, and we talked a little bit about fire earlier, and about how some plants are adapted to live with fire. Pine trees are one of those trees that fire likes. Their resin burns readily. The type of forest that these birds like also like fire. And the trees are adapted to fire. In fact, jack pine needs the heat to open up their pine cones and release their seeds. The fire also gets rid of competition. It burns out the plants that are causing problems for the pine trees. The ash, then left over from the fires, provides a bed for those seeds to grow in. Before the 20th century, there were fires. And those fires helped to open up the landscape a little bit and gave new places for these trees to grow. When the lumbermen arrived in Michigan, there were lots of these pine trees. And so what did we do? We start chopping down these pine trees. At the time, did I forget what? What did I forget? I don't know. No, I didn't forget you. I know you're there. I see you. I always see my subscribers. They would have been quite high at the time that these lumbermen were in Michigan. But something happened later. When the lumbermen left Michigan, settlers arrived. They needed to build their homes. And fire was not their friend, because they built roads, and roads acted as fire breaks. They had to protect their homes from fire, and so fires were put out. And because they didn't have the fires sweeping through, we ended up with fewer warblers. Eventually, we learned, hey, fires are important. And these birds need these fires in order to happen, in order for their populations to build. So what did we do? We did fires, small contained fires, in some areas, and then in other areas, we had people who would decide which trees would go and which trees would stay. No, we don't forget people. So then we replanted these trees. They replanted around 1,200 seedlings. Almost 8 million seedlings are planted each year. Well, several million. When the trees reach about 5 feet tall, the warblers would begin nesting in that area. They continue to use these areas until the needles on the lower branches begin to die. And that usually happens once that tree reaches a height of 16 feet. Once that happens, we chop down that tree and we let them grow again. When they reach about 50 years is when we cut them down and new trees are put in. And then we chop them down and we start the process over again. Also, by removing these older trees, we do reduce the hazard of fires. How you're feeling better about yourself. This system of protecting the forest also protects other animals. In ways that are interesting. And so animals like jack pine and badgers, owls, woodpeckers, blueberries, all types of different plants now are able to thrive because we're managing this land. Now, these trees, once they're harvested, are made into paper, made into wood chips, made into particle board, so they're not wasted. So yeah, that's a bit about this bird, this wonderful, wonderful bird. You are so welcome, Benjam. I'm happy to help. Happy to see people who are thriving. I like to think we have a pretty good community for the most part. We do get bad eggs, but for the most part, we have a pretty good group of people. Oh no. This Kirtland's Warbler, it is actually a pretty decent looking bird. I hope you have a nice life. The males are pretty. I don't know what the females look like, but this was a conservation success story. It's one that's still being written, but I think they'll make it. Now, coming up next week, although maybe I should give this for the rest of July. It's scary, guys. We only have 2 more lives for the month of July. Hi, Peanut VR. Oh, yeah. Well, cowbirds aren't the prettiest birds. That's true. We have 2 more days coming up in 2 more Thursdays for this month. We will be doing the Javan Rhino on next Thursday. And then we are going to be doing the European eel on the 31st. The girl from Up has a mustache. Really? That's interesting. Maybe the man from Up, but girls don't have mustaches, dude. Most of them, anyway. Peanut VR, you're about to take a trip, dude. You're being a little bit rude. Yeah, you. The dog didn't have a mustache. No, I'm not hurt. I'm waiting. I'm enjoying the hole that's being dug. That's all. Full hard over. I have no idea what you're talking about, dude. I don't know. It just seems like you're coming in and being rude. I don't know, maybe not, but you said I look like the girl from Up. How am I supposed to take that, dude? Or dudette? Benjamin was born in what? Oh, wait, never mind. Never mind. I read that wrong. Peanut VR. I am sorry. He did, in his defense, he did say you kind of look like the girl from Up. Not hating, if mean, sorry. He did say sorry, so I guess I'll accept. Apart from that, how is everybody doing? Hello, Landon Prey. Good, good, good. I have a busy night ahead of me. I have to finish a story that I'm working on. And then I'm sorry to hear that. I had waffles. It is a spooky story. I can't tell you any more than that because it'll ruin it'll ruin it for people that are subscribed to me. It's going to be told on my spooky channel. It's called Brighter Days. I will post the channel for you. Yum. Except for the broccoli part. Hold on. I got to get to where I can. Yep. I will post a link. Watch time hours have dropped on the other channel. That's not a good thing. Switch accounts. Customization. The Boneyard Scribe channel. That's the link, but don't go till after live. There are a few stories posted already. It's been up for about a month, maybe a month and a half. But that is the spooky channel's link. Which one? The Kirtland's Warbler? I'm assuming they have to come up this way on migration. So maybe, who knows? Not a problem, Landon. Now, for those of you that are thinking about looking at that channel, I do a character on that channel. I play the part of the character on that channel. It is not a real character. Well, there are other warblers who have yellow breast, as well as goldfinches who also have a yellow breast. Sorry, y'all. I've got to get this written, typed up. No. No, I just tell it because at this point, I don't have the means to translate it over into AI. So, no, I tell it, unfortunately. And I don't have the ability to act it out. I know it's boring, but the stories are good if you take the time to listen to them. Maybe someday I will figure out how to make them into an AI format where you can watch it as I read it, but haven't got there yet. I have messages coming in that I need to answer, but I know if I do, it'll mess up lives, so I'm not going to. I try to make the stories interesting. I try. I don't think there has been a story yet where it's the same story. Like the plot for each story has been different. Even if some of the creatures are in it, but like there might be 2 stories or 3 stories where there's vampires, but the vampire is always different. It's always a different plot. And I love writing them. And the character is fun. I'm not a great actor, but he's fun. You'll figure it out. Some people have their favorite stories. I personally like all of them. Most of them anyway. Oh, carry me through. Tomorrow's going to be rough. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We have work going to be done at the house. So I don't know. Guys, I will be stopping live at 8 o'clock tonight. I have to. Because I've got to get this done. It's almost done. Yep. Our central air is having issues. So Landon, if you read the stories, and you have ideas, you can leave them in the comment section or not. You knew what? I wanted to look at something. 57 subscribers, 185.5 watch time hours. Wow. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. Watch time hours this period have slipped. No, we have water showing up in the basements. And it's associated, the AC and the furnace are the same unit, and there's water. So we got to figure out where the water's coming from. So the furnace AC people are coming out tomorrow to look at it. I wonder. Hi, Samantha. 2,659 public watch hours. What's up, Samantha? Where are you from? What? What is wrong? America is wrong? Oh, I get it. No, you're from America. I get it. I'm sorry. That's cool. Me too. You're almost going to Mexico. Okay. Are you going on vacation? Hi, Monkey D God. How are you? You think? Okay. Well, have a safe trip, I guess. Goid. Oh, got it. I'm glad you're doing good. Where are you from, Monkey D. God? Are you also from the United States? America. America. Got it. I got you. So, yeah, hopefully you guys are all doing good. You're not in a place that's hopefully you're in a place that isn't under like any weather issues. Swords. Who has swords? Ooh, cool. Love the swords. I don't have swords. And the only One Piece that I've watched was way back when it was just a cartoon on Fox. Years ago. Almost. Anyway, guys, I have to go because I have to write. So I'm going to let you go so I can do that. Have a good one. Remember, love one another, always keep learning, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.